I'm thinking this video had a very specific message or theme. If I'm going to be a successful writer, I need to know what that message was. So I want you to think to yourselves about what possible message or theme of that video was. Now turn and talk.
That every story has a beginning, middle, and an end.
I agree.
Or second graders.
Yes. Maybe you can't have one without the other to make a story.
Yeah.
You can't just
You
have an
to
ending. You need all the parts.
Yeah.
Who wants to share their ideas with the class?
Oh, I guess I do. We discussed that the video kind of has the idea that it needs a beginning, middle, and end, and you can't have one without the other. To make a story, you need all three parts to make the whole idea of the story.
That pretty much sums it up, I would say. I think that's a great idea. So, now with your partner, I want you to fill out the objective part of your journal sheet using the word bank underneath, okay? And when you're done, give me a thumbs up.
Okay.
All right. Okay, now let's read the objective together as a class, okay?
After completing a lesson, I will know that all stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I will know what things are in the beginning and why.
So now we know that all stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now today we're going to explore the beginning of stories. And what is in the beginning. That's the engine of our choo-choo train. I'll explain why I did it as a train in a minute. And then in our journals afterwards, we're going to list some ideas for our personal stories we'll be writing by ourselves using the same list. Okay? Does everybody understand what we're doing? Let's see a thumbs up. Okay. Now, I'm thinking there are things in almost every story that happen in the beginning of the story. And like every story I've ever read or watched, you remember stories aren't just in books. TV shows, movies, they all have similar things. And I'll bet we can come up as a group with a really good list of things here. So I want you to think to yourself of things you think or you remember are at the beginning of a story normally. Now turn and talk.
They tell you who's in the story.
They set off the setting. They give you a setting.
They tell you where it is and who's there.
Where, when, and who. Yeah. I agree.
I feel this chilled out girls class. Yeah, absolutely. It's like Paris Hilton sitting there with their purse. Now I'm thinking of some things that are at the beginning of the story. I know you're thinking of some things at the beginning of the story. Does anybody want to share their ideas of what they think is at the beginning of the story? Yes, Victoria.
We were talking about how at the beginning that's when you know who is there and where they are.
Who is there? Where they? That's excellent. That's absolutely true. So what do we call the who of the story?
Characters.
Characters. So the author introduces characters. Or the people of the story, right? And what else did you say?
Where they are.
Where they are. What do we call that?
The setting.
That's the place and the time. Anything else? Jessica, we haven't heard from you. Got any great ideas? Don't be afraid to make
It's kind of what we
mistakes.
talked about.
Yeah?
Maybe some
Clues.
foreshadowing or prediction.
Oh, that's a big word, but that really works with something. So we're introduced to the plot. Does that
What's
sound
gonna
like
happen?
So he introduces the plot. And then one other thing that I'm thinking that they do is they create interest. So now I'm wondering, what would a story be like if these things weren't present at the beginning? If these things weren't in the beginning of the story, if the author didn't give these to us, what would that story be like? I want you to think about that. What would it be? Could we even have a story like that? I want you to think of that in your head. Okay, now turn and talk.
Go ahead.
Confusing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know what's going on.
It'd be very unclear.
Yeah, you'd have to
Um,
try to spend the rest of the time catching up.
Probably wouldn't be very interested in the rest of the story if I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So
Or
who
what
wants
it's
to share
about.
something?
I guess I was.
Yeah, Jessica, I heard some really good answers. I'd like to hear from
If those weren't in the beginning, then it would be very confusing and probably wouldn't be interesting, and we wouldn't know what was going on.
you. Wouldn't be a
and-
very good story, would
No.
it? No. So in our stories, do we want to make sure that we have all these things at the beginning?
Yes.
I think so too. So now, so looking at this list, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be fun to go through each one of these and think of some examples that we've had in stories that we've read, so we can make sure we really understand what each one of these are, so we can make sure we include them in our story. And what I'll do is, as we're going along, I'll also figure out what I'm going to do in my trip story. Remember my trip story when we brainstormed the other day and I talked about my trip? Who remembers my trip? Where was I going?
San Antonio.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to go through that and I'm going to model my story with you, and that way you can do it later, okay? So when we talk about introducing characters or the people of the story, I want you to think to yourself about some story that you've read recently or you've heard recently, you've watched recently, and I want you to think about what that really means, what the characters of the story are, the main characters. Okay, turn and talk.
Can you think of a story recently?
Cinderella. You had beautiful
yeah.
Cinderella, who was beautiful, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Victoria has a personal bone to pick with me about my base feelings of Cinderella. Does anyone want to share a character with the class? Yes, ma'am.
Cinderella.
Cinderella, what a great character. What was she?
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Jessica, did you watch TV last night?
Last night,
Did you read last night?
no.
Neither.
Neither? Did you talk to anybody last night?
Yes.
Okay, who'd you talk to?
My mom.
Okay, so if you were writing a story, couldn't she be a character in your story?
Yes.
So character. So in my story, remember I'm going to San Antonio to visit my Aunt Doreen. Now, who are going to be my characters in my story if I wanted to list the characters?
You.
Me. So we've got Mr. Caldwell. Who else? Think about it for a minute. Why don't you turn and talk to each other?
Does his dog count? Cause his
Yeah,
dog's there.
I think anyone in this story can be a character.
And his aunt.
His aunt. What was it,
Doreen.
Mm-hmm,
Any ideas?
definitely.
Yes, ma'am.
Franklin and Aunt Doreen.
Franklin and Aunt Doreen, very good. That is dead on, Victoria. And what's Aunt Doreen? She's beautiful.
Oh,
Like
she's
Cinderella.
beautiful like Cinderella.
Okay, so we've got some ideas about characters, and you see how I'm going to incorporate them in my story. Do you see how you could probably write a list of your characters that you're planning on creating in your story? Thumbs
Yes.
up? Okay, we ready to move on? Okay, now we're going to talk about the setting, which is the place and the time the story takes place. Now, when we say place, we're talking about where the story starts. We're all going on a trip in our story. So this isn't where you're going to end up. This is where you're starting, okay? So I want you to think about a story that you've recently read, or a TV show that you watched, or a place where you recently were. Since Jessica hasn't read any books or watched TV and only talked to her mother within the last 24 hours, we're going to just think about somewhere we are. And I want you to think of a setting that you could tell me that would really describe what a setting is. Turn and talk.
His classroom.